Hi folks, how you doing? This is Iqbal with NVIDIA weekly analysis and assessment. NVIDIA did not have a very good last week, and we probably know the reasons. I already went over those in my previous videos. In this video, we'll discuss how NVIDIA can perform next week after looking at current fundamentals and future events. Now, let's get started. On Friday, Nvidia went down further about 3.67%, and after hours still down about 0.70%. The last week, Nvidia is still down 3.82%, and year to date 13.19% down, and last 1 year 90.50% up. So it made a good correction from the all-time high. And if you take a look a weekly candlestick chart, you can notice that before last week we had two positive weeks, two positive candlestick, and I had the opinion in my previous video that last week should also close as positive, but it did not happen. And you guys know the reasons behind it, and those reasons, we could not predict in advance, right? One was the DeepSeek factor from China, and another is the tariff from Mr. Trump administration. Another potential impact on Nvidia is due to new export restrictions on advanced GPU chips sale to China. Okay, so Trump administration is working on that, and that is probably the reason Nvidia was down on Friday and also on Thursday. But the one good thing happened to the overall market was the inflation data. And then that inflation data or the PC index data, was not too bad for the overall market. As we noticed that, the PC index came 2.6% versus the forecast 2.6%. It went up about 0.2%, but it did not exceed the forecast, and that was a good sign. And for next week, the economic data, if you take a look, Monday, nothing much coming up regarding inflation or the job report. Tuesday, we have job openings data. Wednesday, we have employment data, and that's also important. And Thursday, we have the initial jobless claim, and that's on the weekly basis. Not too much important, but Friday, we have the US employment report and the unemployment rate data, and that's very important as well. So next week overall is a very eventful week for the overall market as well. But if we talk about specific to Nvidia next week, I think Nvidia will still be under pressure and volatile because the new restrictions on China regarding the chip export could further negatively impact on Nvidia early next week. And also some earnings data gonna be published next week, for example AMD and other tech sector, and that could be important for Nvidia stock movement as well. Now let's take a look technical charts for Nvidia. You see a 180-day hourly interval chart for Nvidia and also the Fibonacci levels. At this point, my Fibonacci levels did not change compared with last week. The next level of support, after this 118 is this one that I told you in my previous video, and that's 112.16. You see? And that is based on 78% retracement for Nvidia. And after that, 100% retracement would be at 100.83. So 112 would make a very strong support for Nvidia and could also be a good buy opportunity. On the upper side, you see that 127 and after that 133. As I told you in my previous video, 133 is a critical level for me. Once 133 is broken sometime next week or following week, then I would assume that Nvidia got the positive momentum to go further up. But at this point, if Nvidia does not break 133, there is a risk of further downside is still there with Nvidia. And if you take a look MACD chart, you see that after getting a very strong negative momentum, you see here a negative MACD line, it got some recovery sometime mid or end of last week, but after that again went in the negative direction. And the reason behind it, as I told you before, is Mr. Trump potential export ban on advanced GPU sale to China. And further downside movement of Nvidia would depend on how strong would be the new regulation. But if the regulations comes very very strong that further restrict Nvidia, then you might expect Nvidia to go further down. Now let's take a look forward P for Nvidia and other AI stocks. Nvidia forward P at this point is at 34.70, much lower than the last week closing. I mean, 1 week prior, that is 124. Palantir 191.84 forward P also went down. I adjusted, the forward P for Palantir based on new earnings forecast. So that's why you see Palantir forward P is below 200. SMCI 8.97 continues to go down. AMD 26.17, but I think that AMD has some potential to go further up next week. And based on the cumulative percentage change, Nvidia is down about 15.8%, lower than the last quarter minimum level that was 12.81% down. So it's very hard to predict based on the cumulative percentage change at this point because it looks to me the prior quarter's data is not relevant at this point because some unknown factors and some unpredictable events happened last week. And next week also there is still uncertainty, so volatility on Nvidia could still be there. So further downside next week might happen as well, in my opinion. Now let's take a look some latest news and analysis regarding Nvidia from other sources. Let's take a look the first one that says China's rise in AI. Chinese are a bit behind in the chips, but they are ahead in the applications. So that's probably makes sense to me. They are behind on the chip side, but yes, they are very competitive in terms of the new application, as the recent history just told us. Wow, now this is a good one that says why DeepSeek's advantage is temporary and its success won't sink Nvidia. Let's open it. And this analysis came from Louis Navillier, and he's the founder and chief investment officer of Reno, Nevada-based Navillier and Associates Incorporation. So what he's trying to say here, he says that Nvidia will maintain market dominance and both its stock and power grid shares are attractive. I agree with that. Few developments are more motivating to Silicon Valley than a wake up call like DeepSeek. Good. So basically, he's trying to present a long term view. Then in the short term, yeah, there are some headwinds, but in the long term, you know, at this point, there is no strong competitor to Nvidia. So as you're probably aware that, Mr. Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, just met Mr. Trump and they discussed on the different stuff regarding the AI and also the potential export restriction on GPUs. And this one is probably from Friday, and it tells that Trump started 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico. What do you guys think? Do you think this increased tariffs on those countries will bring inflation to the US market? Let me know because this is a new factor and it did not happen in the past, so it's very hard to factor in the model, right? In the inflation model. So next few months, we need to be very watchful in terms of the inflation data. In my opinion, yes, I think inflation might go up because of these new tariffs, and the companies probably need to be more creative in terms of bring the prices down. So this one again, a same story that says Trump says we will put tariffs on chips, and oil and gas says oil and gas tariffs by February 8th. Again, the tariff on oil and gas, what do you guys think? Can it bring inflation to the overall US market, not just on the oil and gas sector? Overall, the food supply chain. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. So, other than those news, I do not find anything significant or relevant to Nvidia. Let's take a look at my watch list. So, my watch list, you see that in a mixed picture. Some are positive and some are negative. And the highest negative change is on Nvidia, that is 3.67% down. So that's all about my weekly analysis and assessment for next week. If I summarize this video, in my opinion, next week would also be challenging for Nvidia, and we should expect some volatility as well. But again, at the same time, if Nvidia goes further down about another 10%, then probably it would give a good buy opportunity. At this point, I'm not considering to place any more buy position because I already bought Nvidia around 127. That probably was not a good buy. I should have waited more. But anyways, things happen. I hope you liked the video. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you more in the next video. Take care.